on campus at Sardis High School with the new head football coach. I'm going to let this gentleman introduce himself at this time.
I'm head coach Chris Stephenson, Sardis High School. Just took over the program and looking forward to some great things.
Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself. I love on these interviews getting to know somebody for people in and around Sardis who may or may not know you. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, where you grew up, and how that was.
Grew up. I'm an Alabamian, born and raised, and originally from Birmingham, and then spent a lot of my childhood in the Tri-Cities area: Sheffield, Muscle Shoals, Florence. My parents were big supporters of football, and I ended up playing football at Vestavia Hills High School at a time when we were winning a lot of championships and doing some great things. Buddy Anderson also played for Thompson Reynolds, Button Reynolds there, and even in junior high, both of them won over 300 games. So it was a blessing. It'd be like playing for two Bear Bryants, kind of thing, and it was, and they molded my career as far as the way I called plays and things like that. I can remember sitting in the classroom, and my teachers will hate me for this, but I sat there and your girlfriend would want you to write her name and all that kind of stuff on your notebook, and I was the one drawing football plays out. That was the Coach Reynolds in me, and then Coach Anderson pushed that even further. But went on from there and attended Auburn University and UAB, and got into coaching, oddly enough, through recruiting, and had some conversations with Lou Holtz years ago, and he said, I remember when you played, you'd be probably a pretty good coach. And I thought, yeah, right, I'm going to be a firefighter, kind of thing, or I'm going to be a fisheries biologist or whatever it was. And never did I think in a million years I was going to be a football coach, much less a high school teacher, teaching science and history and PE and health and all that stuff. So getting into it was hard, but Alabama's football. We bleed it. Auburn, Alabama, whomever, and just to be back in this football mecca is something, especially growing up in a time when Auburn and Alabama were ruling the world.
They still are.
They still are.
Auburn's slowed down a little bit, but Alabama's still.
Well, it's a great. All Alabamians should be so proud that we have two dominant football programs.
Mm-hmm.
Our high school kids are phenomenal, and you can't say that about Florida or Texas or Mississippi or Tennessee. But you can look at Alabama and go, whew, there it is, and we should all be proud of that as Alabamians.
Yeah, high school football has definitely changed in this state. It's one of the premier states in the country. It's definitely per capita. We don't have near the population of some of these places, but seem to turn out a whole lot of great talent. Now, Coach, once you got into coaching, where was your first head coaching job?
My first head coaching job was at Mount Dora, right in the middle of Florida, Central Florida, not too far from Orlando.
How did you end up there?
I was a defense coordinator at Citrus High School over in Inverness, which is over by Crystal River, toward the Gulf. And, I just interviewed and got the job. I was surprised, to say the least, as I've been an old coordinator for a long time, and they gave me an opportunity to do it. And I took a team that was 3-7, and we ended up being 8-4, and in that first year. And I said, hey, I didn't think I could do it, but I guess maybe I can. And the next year we were like 7-3, and so that was the first one. And it was a tough place to get your feet wet because it was an area where the South Sumters of the world and the Donnellans of the world and the Palatkas and all those guys were around, and it was just so hard to compete there because they were perennial champions, and you had to play them all. And we were 4A, and we played. I think we played one other 4A team. The rest of them were 8A and 7A and 6A. So it It was rough, but
it was a meat grinder.
It was that, but it was fun.
Now, then after that, where did you go to next after that job?
Went from there to Father Lopez, private Catholic school, to be the head coach there, and it was challenging because it's a different world now down there. Because suddenly you have open school, you can go wherever you want in Florida to be a football player. So they could live in Miami and attend Father Lopez, or they could be in Orlando and go to Mount Dora, so to speak. And nobody says a word. You could just, kids are transferring left, right, and center. And it's crazy, but so big difference. You're playing the Bishop Moores of the world now, and it was definitely challenging. We went 6-4 that first year, and it was tough. Again, another small school playing a bunch of big schools, and so just to make it to that point was pretty satisfying. Didn't have a losing season, or anything like that. And knock on wood, I haven't yet, but kind of thing. But so that was the next stop.
What years were we talking about here during that time?
Yeah, Mount Dora was back 2015, 16, 17, and then Lopez was 18, 19 in there, right before COVID hit.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Then you went on. That was where you. And your next stop was where you been the
next.
Yeah.
I went to Trinity Christian, a small school there outside between DeLand and Deltona, Florida.
Gotcha.
Was there for a year, and then went to Pine Ridge High School, which is in that very same town. You could grab a dead cat and sling it and hit it, and then so was there, and that was what brought me here.
Gotcha. What was it you saying about Sardis? You see the job came open, and what was it about this area, this particular school that made your ears perk up, so to speak?
Yeah, and it did. There's not a whole lot of high schools in the state of Florida or in Alabama that I can say this about, but I've traveled through Sardis 1,000 times. Going to hunt at Gunnersville, or whatever, going to fish up there, kind of thing. And I've passed through on Friday nights years ago, coming back from a day of fishing, up that way, and remembering, seeing the stands full.
Mm-hmm.
And Sardis would be sub 5-5, sub 500. And you think, gosh, how in the world do they do that? In Florida, you got to be 9-0 or 10-0 to get half the crowd there.
Yeah.
So, and as a player back in the early '80s, it was, you always heard about how black and blue it was up here with the Glencoes and the Hoax Bluffs and the Boaz and Arab and all these guys in Sardis. And I always said, if I got a chance to go up there and coach one day, that would be a neat area to go to. But the family, you always heard about, faith family football in Sardis. And it was, it's that. I haven't been here 2 weeks, and if it continues to be like this, I hope I'm here till they put me in the ground. So, because it's remarkable.
Yeah.
They're exactly who they say they are, and that's saying something, because that's just not that way anymore. The world's not like that anymore, and that's something we talked about earlier. And it's just that, to me, is the faith family football, and they don't just preach it here; they live it.
That's right. Now, we covered their girls went on that run in the tournament, regional tournament, and first time ever. And just to give you an idea of the Sardis family, Caroline Johnson hits the 3-pointer that we filmed, and to beat Ramsey in the first round of the regionals, and it reached 185,000 people in a day and a half. That'll give you an idea. You're talking about girls basketball, man.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, now girls basketball's grown a lot, but
right.
I could have never imagined in 100 years, like like when I was in school, 185,000 different people seeing me shoot a jump shot.
Yeah.
Shows the difference how things change, but again, it goes back to what you said about Sardis. It's like a family, right? You know,
it is.
Now, my next question is, for those who do not know you, talk about your coaching style. Everybody's got their own niche, their own style. What would yours be if you had to put it in words?
Defensively, I've never been the defensive line guy that grabs the offensive lineman. You know, I call it the hold and hope, kind of thing. You hold up the line, and you're gap protecting and stuff. I'm coming after you. I always say, nothing good ever happens slow. So we're going to get after you as fast as we can. We're going to try to create turnovers and chaos in the backfield, make you work for everything you got in the back end, and want linebackers flying around and blitzing and hitting people in the mouth. And it's a little old school, but it's old school work 60 years ago.
That's right.
Still does.
That's exactly right.
Offensively, try to be as balanced as possible. Take what they give you. And I preach to take what they give you a lot, because it's, if they're going to give us the outside run, we're going to take it the whole night. And but I'm not a spread guy. I'm not going to get out and go 5 wide and sling it all over the place. Again, I'll say I'm going to take what they give us, because it's, if I have Herschel Walker, right, or what was the young man that was here, Toby P. What was his name? Yeah, if I've got him, I promise you, he's going to get the ball 30 times a game. We're going to get 9, go. Yeah. But if I don't have that kid, we're going to do something else.
Right.
And so take what the school gives you,
right,
so to speak.
No doubt. Now, who were some of the guys you leaned on growing up, coaches you really was like mentored by, that you kind of drew a lot from?
Oh yeah, well, Coach Reynolds, first of all, he was in the Battle of the Bulge, and he had all these crazy stories, and nothing that we could really relate to. World War II had been gone for a few years, and but he preached faith and family. I mean, he would take us fishing in Canada. I mean, he was just that guy.
That's crazy.
And then when Coach Anderson came in, he was, again, faith, family, that kind of stuff. And I've drawn off of both of them. Of course I did. My defensive coordinator, I played safety in high school, and was Peter Brash, a legendary coach, and he was like a dad. When he wanted something done, I can tell you a story, and I'm going to tell on myself here, but Coach Reynolds one time told me to take an official out.
Like go hit him?
Like go hit him. And God love him, he's passed away now. But and
that's awesome.
But he would. Back judge was giving us absolutely, just terrible calls over and over and over. And he just said, "Remind him." And I said, "Yes, sir." And that's how disciplined we were. And so I put a shoulder into him, and I got a chance, and it knocked the wind out of him, knocked him down. Again, please don't do that at home, okay? That kind of thing. I will not tell my players to do that, I can assure you, Mom and Dad, if you're watching this. So, and he told me that after it happened, he got his control back, and he did I shouldn't have ever let that even happen. He said, I know what kind of man you are, because, and I would have eaten the locker for him. He was that guy, and if I could get half of these players to do that, we'll win every game.
Right.
Because they'll be that committed to doing what we're doing. And so, but those two gentlemen, of course, my dad was a huge influence, just in becoming a man and a Christian, and on and on and on. I try to be just like him as a father, not so much a football coach, because I treat these like these are my kids. People ask me all the time, how many kids you got? Well, I've got 61.
Yeah.
One daughter and 60 guys. So
there you go.
And those were the biggest influences. And I've had plenty of head coaches that I've worked for over time, and so it was a great time to when I came up, because there were all these even college coaches that were out there that were so influential. The Pat Dyes of the world and the Gene Stallings of the world. I've quail hunted with Gene Stallings, and he is one of the best football minds I've ever been around. Talk to Spurrier at length, and he just blows you away. You just sit there in awe. And then, you get the family, the faith and family from Dye, and the toughness and all that. And then you beg, borrow, and steal from all these guys.
That's right.
To make them me. And, I'm not saying I'm any of them, but
get a little piece of them.
A little bit.
That's right.
A little bit.
No doubt. Now, I like asking this question. As the game's changed, what's some of the things you think that's changed for the better, and some of them it's just hard for you to get on board with?
Well, for the better, the fans like more points. I'm one of those 14, 13 kind of guys. So that's what I take Prilosec for, I guess. But there's a plug for Prilosec. For the better, the equipment, the protection of these young men.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Goodness alive. I broke my back in 2 places playing football. And they told me I could play football or I could walk. And it made it real apparent what I was going to do. And so just to see how the helmets have changed, how the shoulder pads have changed. What bothers me, though, is, the knee pads are non-existent. The thigh pad, you watch the USFL is playing, this weekend, and they're not wearing thigh pads anymore, and they're running backs. The game, I'm going to tell my age, the game's gotten softer. It's to be nice about it. We're too nice about it. I'm big on aggression, controlled aggression, and the game has lost it. And it's a teaching tool. And I know some people are going to see this and go, gosh, he's just terrible. But there's a whole lot of grown men in this world that have been through these locker rooms that are grown men.
Yeah.
Not only because they were aggressive and all that kind of stuff, but this sport, the men that coached here, taught them how to be a man. And football's losing that. And that's a fact.
I agree. No, it definitely has. And on the tail end of that, it's not just football. A lot of other sports I feel the same way. It's got a lot more finesse than it has. It is what it is. But moving forward, before we shut this video down, because I got interviews on our other video. We're doing just a second. When guys part from you, they go into their day-to-day lives, such as you did from Coach Anderson and them. What do you hope to take away from being coached by you?
The greatest thing I can ever hope for, and it's happened quite a bit, and it's a blessing, is when they call you 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now, and they say, Coach, if you hadn't have put me through all that, I wouldn't have been able to get through this divorce. I wouldn't have been able to handle my child passing away. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's the things. Things are going to happen in life, of course, we know that, but I don't wish that on anybody. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time, you might not be able to make your house payment. You might get evicted from your apartment. you got to look back at this sport that built the character and the determination to get through it, to be tough enough to get through it. And for college coaches to call me and say, gosh, Coach, do you have anybody this year? Because every kid that we get from you is awesome. They're a gentleman, they're respectful, they're Christians.
Work their tails off.
This is about winning. It's about winning in life first.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building that young man. The wins are they're the icing on the cake. This is what put your name on a building. Not that I want that, mine's too long. So they have to add another wing. But it's about building that young man. For that young man to come back and say, gosh, Coach, you were right about this, and this. Because I did the same thing with my coaches. You did the same thing with yours. The cycle continues.
That's right.
And it's scary that it might stop one day.
Yep. Did very well. COVID showed us that, didn't it?
In a hurry.
Well, Coach, I'm going to shut this interview down, and I appreciate you letting everybody in the city of Sardis and around the viewing area get to know you a little bit, take the time out of your day. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.